G'day mates, in today's video you already know I'm going to be covering all of the action from FNCS Grand Finals Day 1 and Day 2. EU is an absolute nail biter, it came right down to the line, it was one of the best finishes we've ever seen in an FNCS. NA East was a complete blowout, Bugha and Mero absolutely ran away with it. I want to show you all the wholesome and hype reactions from all the games because they were so exciting as always. Also, we had some big names unfortunately fall short, Benjy, Fishy and Savage, Epicwell and Arkram. I want to talk about what went wrong, what happened to them, and open up the discussion. Does this now make Bugha and Mero the best players in Fortnite history, or do players like Tayson still hold that mantle? There's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. If you did not watch EU, you seriously missed out. This is one of the best FNCS tournaments I've ever watched, one of the best finishes. Going into the last game, we had Hen and Queasy, Kiriachi and Stormy Ride, and Tayson and Thomas HD separated by less than 2 eliminations in a 2-day format where eliminations are worth 3 points. This was so close, and again, I probably don't need to tell you, but in case you're unaware, Hen and Queasy have been one of the most, if not the most dominant teams this season. They truly deserved their victory, their first place. They won it on 319 points, walking away with $300,000, $150,000 each. Now again, when they got the first place over Kiriachi and Stormy Ride, the points don't look like it was that close because in the end, Hen managed to get a victory royale, and I say Hen because he was solo for the entirety of the rotating zones and he still managed to win. It was so incredibly exciting. Their reaction is incredible. I'll show you in a second, but the storylines, Kiriachi and Stormy Ride, in case you guys have somehow missed it, Stormy Ride is Ukrainian. He has been going through the terrible situation in Ukraine, in Europe right now. He has now gotten himself to a safe city within Ukraine that's bordering on Poland, has then got his pretty scuffed temporary setup and has managed to come second, walking away with $100,000, and he tweeted out that he did it for his dad who is currently fighting in the war against Russia. Like, just honestly, just insane. I can't believe the sentence that I have just said. I'm so proud of Kiriachi and Stormy Ride. Against all odds, they came second, so close to winning it out as well. Then we had Tayson and Thomas in third, who went down by a singular point. Tayson and Thomas missed out on an extra $50,000 by a single point. They played so phenomenally well, but unfortunately in their last game, they had Aqua and Noah Riley take a very aggressive fight on the edge of zone. That took them down early, and that gave Hen and Queasy the chance to run away with it after Kiriachi and Stormy Ride went down just a little bit later. It was such a phenomenal finish to a good tournament. Before I run through the rest of the leaderboard, let me show you Hen and Queasy's reaction because it's so wholesome.
Don't drop yet. So far, in zone. Nice one. Nice one, get the match. Ten dogs, you're good. 3 votes.
Nice!
I won the game solo! Oh my... I won the game solo! I'm passing out! I'm passing out! Hen! I love you! Hen!
Deep my heart, Hendrik, honestly, but
I can't! I don't feel my body! I just want...
A few pros did make this comment, but I wanted to share Queasy's tweaks. I found it super interesting. They were saying that only Queasy would complain about RNG after winning $300,000, but it does go to show this tweet just how unlucky they were. They still played phenomenally, but I just wanted to make the point they weren't gifted this FNCS by any means. They didn't get every zone. They didn't get a bunch of loot. Yes, they had north side of Sleepy uncontested, but all the other teams around them on the leaderboard all had uncontested drops as well. We had Stormy Ride and Kiriachi with uncontested logjam. They got dropped on once by Seti and Chapix, but that's only because they were trying to figure out what they were doing with Joe and Vino dropping on them. Tayson and Thomas, they had contested at the Covert Cavern, but at the same time, they weren't getting dropped on directly except for like 1 or 2 games by Joe and Vino, I believe, and both those times they won anyway, so they had more than enough fantastic loot out of Covert. Again, you guys are always going to ask what happened to Tayson. Even though they came 3rd and only missed out on 2nd by 1 point, if they don't win, it was a bad play or they didn't do well, but I will give Tayson and Thomas the kind of breakdown of, unfortunately, it was their early surge. If they found their early surge before 70 players alive, they did phenomenal, but quite often, they would have to eat through a lot of the extra meds they got out of the vault, getting through the surge before then surge would kick in, and they would just get over it. So it was a bit sad to see, but still, a 3rd place was phenomenal from Tayson and Thomas. You look at his FNCS history, and it's actually ridiculous. I would have loved to have seen Thomas get his first ever FNCS win, though, because he has been playing so well, and they did very well this weekend, but you cannot say Hen and Queasy didn't deserve this win. Everyone congratulated them because they played absolutely phenomenal. But going through the rest of the leaderboard as well, we had Vortex and Janice, who kicked off the day with a victory royale, but unfortunately in the middle of the day kind of came a little bit unstuck. Still really good in 4th place. Like, this leaderboard was so close. They're only 5 points away from getting 2nd, so they played so incredibly well. Trulex and Chico having a fantastic day too. Grolls and Clown. Now I wanted to talk about this team because Grolls specifically coming into this tournament had less than $4,000 earned and just walked away with $40,000 today. That is a massive payout. At one point, they were in 1st place. The biggest issue for them was they were getting dropped on by Hookah's team, but even more so when Joe and Vino stopped dropping on the south side of Sleepy and went over towards Covert. That meant that then Seti and Chapix could then rotate quickly over to them on the split next to Bugle and then take them out early, and that is what led to their match history looking very rough on day 2. They had a 2 Elim 46th and a 0 Elim 47th and a 2 Elim 27th in their last 3 games, getting almost no points. But still, getting a 6th place, I was very impressed with them. Vidil and Rezon finishing on 242, only 1 point behind them. They did get a victory out today, a 7 Elim win, and even though they came 7th, I want to show you this reaction because, again, you guys love the reactions, and of course, with Rezon and Vidil and Destiny Jesus in the call, you know it's going to be a good one.
Alles gut. Spray, was spray.
Just spray, you have to spray.
Da muss ein Layer runtergehen. Nice!
Nice, come on, boy. Go up.
Geh hoch wie eine Note, du Lorenzo,
Come on, boy.
Ja, Digga!
You're so good, Lenny. You got a shotgun as well.
Da war Metz unter dir.
Reload your
Bist
guns,
unter
take
dir.
your time.
Ja, da hast du auch richtig viele gekillt. Da waren richtig viele tot. Bleib einfach Ultimate jetzt einfach. Geh für. Aua, hier geht ab. Slash alles.
Splash.
1 Splash noch.
Nice.
Richtig gute Metz. 600 Metz.
Go up.
Nochmal Sachen. Minis. Double SMG.
Sort your
minis.
spots out, you're good.
2 Duos halten. Einer knockt. 1v2. Nice. Hoch. Richtig gut.
Stay up, you win here, I think.
40 Sekunden noch, da kann ich awesome sein.
You're max.
Richtig viel.
400 mats, just don't take damage. Nice, you get that, just stay
Nice.
Nice. Don't peek. You're gonna get sniped in like 3 seconds, okay? Nice. It's Stormy right.
Der hat Madness. 20 Sekunden.
You're healthy.
Der geht ins mit.
Stay alive. 20 seconds, stay. I think you win.
Ich glaube auch,
20
du willst.
seconds, just stay.
Der kommt. Cone. Nice. Ist hier runter, maybe.
You win here, I swear.
Ciao.
Let's go, Lenny! Oh my god, you're so good!
Let's go! Oh my god!
I love the reactions so much, man. I seriously wish every pro team streamed just for the reactions, but huge performance from Vidil and Rezon. We had Pink and Anas in 8th, and this was a sad one because going into day 2, they were in 1st. It was just unfortunate day 2 for them. They struggled mostly around their surge. I didn't really watch too much of their gameplay because I was focusing so much on those top 5 teams, and once they fell off the pace a little bit, they did start to fall down further and further. They did have a couple of good games here on day 2, but ultimately it was day 1 that carried their points through. They will be a bit disappointed with that one. They could run it back though. They got a 7 Elim win in their second last game, so they brought the momentum back. but in the very last game, they couldn't do it again, but still a very, very good 8th place for them. We had DKS and Bad Sniper, who also dropped down on the leaderboard, and again, they were the team contesting Benjy and Savage at Tilted Towers. Still getting a 9th place is phenomenal for them, and that's obviously going to lead you guys to ask me about Benjy and Savage, and unfortunately, they didn't do too well today. Benjy and Savage, day 1, really carried their points. When it came down to day 2, they got almost 0 points. Their games on day 2 was a 0 Elim 49th, 0 Elim 36th, 0 Elim 43rd, 0 Elim 47th, 0 Elim 47th, and a 1 Elim 40th. And that genuinely does hurt to say. It was just, they had a rough time on spawn. DKS and Bad Sniper was out dropping them. We then had Kinzel on the north side of Tilt, who started getting more aggressive on them on the south side. It was rough. It was just, it was a story of Benjy and Savage being contested in FNCS, doing phenomenal day 1 despite that, but then still going down on day 2 overall. And Benjy did make a tweet, and it was really sad to read about how he feels like he's letting people down, but ultimately, it's how Fortnite goes sometimes. They could have done better with their con, and I know they could have done better, but ultimately, there's very few teams at the top here who have done well while being contested. You just gotta hope, finally, in Chapter 3, Season 2, they'll lock down a drop and get it uncontested. I'm still super proud of how the guys played, especially in day 1, but I thought I'd include that because obviously, being one of the big names, everyone's gonna be asking about it. Going further down the leaderboard, we have Refsguard and Scram in 10th on 229 points, Tusum Putrick on 224, Joe and Vino 213, Andalex and Queasy 206, Gabix and Schmecky 203, and Mustache and Malabuka 202. I won't run the entire leaderboard. That's the top 15. There were still some really good performances down the board. We were missing some names like Karma and Teak, Noel Riley and Aqua, Fluky and Clement. There were big teams that did struggle, but it's EU. It's the biggest and best teams in the world. There's so many of them, and not everyone can pop off and perform. There was some upsets. I was very surprised to see Kami and Teak struggle in Grand Finals when they've done so well all season, but that's what Grand Finals are all about. And like I said, if you missed it, you're going to want to go back and watch it. You can check out my Twitch VOD, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. All my VODs are up. I really recommend you watch the EU tournament because it was an absolute banger. EU was all about the super close leaderboard right till the very end, and NA East was completely different. Bugha and Mero absolutely ran away with it, rivaling only Bugha's World Cup performance for having such a dominant lead that basically the last few games just didn't even really feel like they mattered. It was exciting to watch nonetheless though, because we got to see Bugha and Mero become the back-to-back FNCS champions, winning the last 3 in the row, which has mean Mero has won 5 of the last 7 FNCSs on NA East. Just absolutely ridiculous. They closed it out on 394 points, getting 0 wins though. But if you look at their match history, you can see why they got 0 wins. They got a 4th, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th. Like, just insane. They literally only had a 24th and a 21st that you could consider throwaways. They had an average placement of 7.83 in FNCS Grand Finals. That is absolutely ridiculous across 12 games. 2nd and 3rd averaged 12th and 11.92, and they still played absolutely insane as well. Spade and Chimp did so phenomenally in 348, such a big pop off for a team that I think, myself included, didn't really have huge eyes on for them. Walking away with $90,000, 45,000 each, that'll boost up their earnings a lot. Smite and Larson, this is a weird one, in case you guys saw it all, Smite and Larson apparently hated each other coming into FNCS. I was going to talk about in the video, they didn't even want to queue up together. They said, can they find new teammates to play for semis? There was a whole bunch of tweets going around. I've now heard rumors that apparently it wasn't true, it was all for impressions. Some people saying no, it was true. I don't really know what's going on there, but if that is true, a teammate who didn't even want to play with each other coming into FNCS, then getting 3rd, a podium finish as a team that I think a lot of people wouldn't have expected. When Peterbot was left with the option of playing with Larson right before FNCS on social media, I saw everyone freaking out, clowning and making jokes, so seeing them come out on 3rd, it made me pretty happy for him. Smite and Larson, congrats, a big pop off from them, a team that wasn't even on my radar at all, so I apologize to you guys, but very well played. We had Jampa and Dukes in 4th on 301 points. They were almost set to get the centered curse there. Jampa obviously being runner-up in the last FNCS and Grand Royale, but unfortunately they were 2nd place at one point during the day, but their last few games became a little bit unstuck. They brought it back at the very end with a 12th and 8th and an 18th and a 9th, but unfortunately they had a 34th and a 48th place 2 games in a row, so getting almost no points in those 2 games, it did really hurt them, but still a big performance from them, and then cold and centered with one of the most ridiculous comebacks I've seen in a while, 295 points, putting them in 5th. But if you look at the session leaderboard, how many they got on the second day, they actually got 223 points, getting I think over 15 points clear of Mero and Bugha in second. So insane performance from them, 223 of their 295 points coming in a single day. So again, a story of why you should never give up, because that got them $40,000. It does break again the cold and centered, at least the centered curse of second place. Haven't hit that one for a while. Would have loved to see Center get his first FNCS win, but I truly think it's coming. They played phenomenal here, especially on day 2. Acorn Kanata clutching up a 6th place on 286, and then Day and Clicks with a bit of a jump down the leaderboard. It was a huge gap between 6th and 7th, getting 7th place on 263. Now, I can't say enough good things about Clicks this weekend. I know they didn't win it. I know they didn't get Clicks' best FNCS performance. His 5th place with Bizzle in trios is still going to hold up as his best one, but I'm super proud of how Clicks played. A lot of pros say they're going to become IGLs. They say they're going to improve at the game. They're going to put in the hours. They're going to get better, and very few of them actually do it. But Clicks and Day hit the books, especially Clicks. He got a coach. He listened. He paid attention, and again, you can see how much he's improved as an IGL. I think a 7th place as his first FNCS as an IGL with a fragger like Day who needs a fair bit of IGLing, I think that was phenomenal, and I don't think anyone can take it away from him as much as a lot of players are going to out there. A lot of people in the community going to say he got live coach, or they're going to try and take it away, but I genuinely think they played really well. They had some issues with Surge that they can definitely clean up, but they beat out teams like Commandment and Stretch. Peterbot and Queasy in the end doing very, very well despite only forming a little bit before. D-Roller and Trashy, I was so happy to see them up there on the leaderboard as well as one of my dark horses. Shadow and Me Too popping off huge despite a lot of people doubting them. Again, myself included, wasn't really on my radar. Unfortunately, a pretty rough day 2 for them. Did cost them their points. Coming into day 2, they were top 3, dropping down to 12th. They'll be upset, but honestly, out of the windmill drop, the fact they were top 3 even after day 1 was insane for me. I'm super proud for them. Bucky and Cam getting 13th, which I still think is good, but I'm sure Bucky and Cam will be a bit disappointed after a really, really dominant season. Threats and Users in 14th, and then Knifer and Byler in 15th. They were right up there in the leaderboard after day 1, but unfortunately, because of day 2, Iomzo and DJen started to get the drop on them a little bit more at the llama split. They're contested. We know the story. Some days it goes your way, some days it doesn't, and they ended up getting 15th. I will talk about Rise and Ages, though. Again, another team contested out of Greasy Grove. When they win the drop, they go on to dominate, but of course, being contested by Nounsy and Sprite 12 games out of 12 is going to hurt your match history, and they just fell short outside the top 15. Rise was in my Twitch chat a bunch today. I was doing a viewing party, and he was coming in, and honestly, I can't give more props and praise to Rise as a player and as a person for how he handled that. He just said, hey, we're contested, we go again next, hopefully next season's a bit better, and we do it again. And honestly, I love that mentality from Rise, so I wanted to give him a big shout out in the video, because props to you, Rise. I wish I had the mentality like you for anything, man. I wanted to touch on a topic that I know is going to be discussed a lot over the next few days. Does Bugha and Mero's win cement either of them as the best Fortnite player of all time? And it's an interesting topic to discuss. Obviously, you now have Bugha with the World Cup win and 3 FNCSs back-to-back, insane 4 tournaments. Obviously, a whole bunch of other consistent FNCS performances in there as well. A lot of top 5s. We have now Mero winning 5 of 7 FNCSs, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Which one do you weight higher, that amount of consistency in this season, or do you still weight the World Cup champion higher? We also have Tayson now, who is on his 4th FNCS win, was pushing for his 5th, but also still got a podium finish here today and has other huge FNCS placements. What does make you the best Fortnite player of all time now? Because we have 3 players who have absolutely insane achievements, and some people arguing that other people outside of this should still have that mantle. People like Zayt and Saf, who've been, doing crazy things since the start of Fortnite. And honestly, with these kind of topics, I never really weigh in, because most people have a pro in their mind and no one's going to shake them from that. And I kind of love that. If you think Mero is the greatest of all time now, if you think it's Bugha, Tayson, anyone else, that's awesome. But I'm just enjoying watching pro players who are still at the absolute top of their game. If anything, Bugha is now even maxing his peak of World Cup. He won World Cup, which was huge. That was one performance, but the consistency to win 3 FNCS in a row. Mero obviously even popping off in solo cash cups at the moment as well. Tayson is dominating cash cups as well. As it's just, honestly, it's insane. I didn't want to weigh on exactly who I think is the best because I seriously cannot decide. It just depends on what you weight as higher, whether you think World Cup, even though it was ages ago, still holds a higher bearing than an FNCS, or because FNCS is more recent now, winning on EU versus winning on NA. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into it, but I'm just appreciating watching the best of the best go at it and still play so consistently. It's honestly kind of crazy. NA West was a bit of a weird one this time around, and I say that because we didn't have Epic Whale and Arkham at the top of the leaderboard, and that is honestly noteworthy when it comes to NA West. Arkham and Epic Whale have obviously won 6 FNCSs now, at least Epic Whale has, and then you have the one where they lost to Reet, Fabs, and Snacky. They came second, and they've really been at the top of the leaderboard for every single FNCS for such a long time, but they were nowhere to be seen, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we had Fabs and Snacky, who I was just discussing, beating them last time, coming in first place on 345, just beating out Pars and Rays. Now I say just beating out because it came right down to the very last game. Pars and Rays, it was a nail biter. They were surviving into the end game. Unfortunately, they went down a little bit early, and then Fabs and Snacky pulled off the 8 elim seconds. So going into that last game, same as EU, there was only a couple of eliminations in it, but huge credit to Fabs and Snacky, and they did it out of a contested drop. They dropped Greasy against Yelty and Krizark. Now they didn't really fight at all. They pretty much did just split it, but it does go to show that even some of these PYs that other teams are fighting at time and time again, Ryzen Ages versus Nounsy and Sprite, if they split it, they still could have pulled off a phenomenal performance, and I think that is worth discussing as well. But Pars and Rays, a very underrated team on NA West that I hadn't really heard too much about until this, and they played phenomenally. We had Rexy and Dynamics, Similar, Caleb and Kinzo, Nigel and Angel, so many underrated teams on NA popping off now, which I'm super happy for. I don't want this to be a story of, oh, Epic Whale and Arkham didn't do well, then it doesn't matter. No, it does matter for these new up-and-coming players who are managing to pop off and beat them at their own game. We had a not very much a new up-and-coming team, but a new team on the leaderboard we haven't seen for in a while, Landjock and Punisher. And those names might ring a bell to you if you're an OG. Yes, that is the duo World Cup qualifying team of Punisher and Landjock. They have been playing since before World Cup. Landjock took a pretty big break from competitive. Punisher's been around. You've probably seen him playing on Nick A30. Well, the OGs are back together, and they came 6th, clutching up the last game and a few of the games in there as well. They got a 5 elim win in their very last game to close it out and almost get a top 5 finish. Then we had Salty and Cruyot, Jagveer and Solution, I never know how to say his name, Scissor and Nico, Beast and Tautai, Batman, Bugha and Wheels, which again, a fan favorite of mine, unfortunately fell short. They did start to get contested in their last 2 games. They got a 40th and 45th place because of it. Really sad to see for them. Then we had Zooks and Bolts, Poffy and Herbie, Wavy, Jacob and Chris, and then Arkham and Epic Whale. And this is the big talking point. What happened to Arkham and Epic Whale? Well, they were contested at Coney, which already isn't that good of a drop. They picked a drop that was more low-key this season, probably hoping they would then be uncontested at a low-key drop as the Kings of NA West, but unfortunately for them, they were contested, and this is going to cause them an issue. Towards the end, on the second day, they did start to split the drop. They took the loot, ran away, didn't take too many fights. Their opponent did disconnect a couple times, which helped them as well, but they got 156 points, getting 3rd overall points on day 2, so if they had a better day 1, they could have been up there, but it does show. I know a lot of people are going to blame the meta right now, or the meta's terrible. You know, Reet didn't even make grand finals. Now Arkham and Epic Whale aren't placing highly. The meta's terrible. And while I agree, this is my favorite competitive meta of all time, I just think there's some phenomenal players on NA West, and it goes to show if you're contested, and especially when you are contested, you lock it into an ego battle and you keep trying to fight them, there's going to be issues. But they were dropping a drop spot that pretty much you have to fight over. Coney just doesn't have the loot to split it consistently every single game. So sometimes some tournaments, they just don't go your way. If you're contested and you're not at a drop spot that can allow that, you're not going to have a great performance, even if you are Epic Whale and Arkham. And they did make some mistakes as well. I don't want to give them the complete out of all they're contested. That's why they did terribly entirely. There was a few situations and a few games they misplayed, but I think the mental frustration and the pressure of being, you know, the Kings of NA West and not performing probably got to them. But I have no doubt in my mind next season with an uncon drop or a better drop spot, they will run away with it and they will still pop off. It wasn't like some sign of, oh, they're washed, they were playing terrible. When they had their moments of brilliance, when they got their loot, they still looked absolutely dominant. I know I don't get a chance to show a lot of love to the other regions because it's so hard to follow so many regions on top of what I'm already doing, but of course, FNCS Grand Finals, I gotta give my shout outs, and some of the other regions went absolutely crazy. On Brazil, we had the closest we got to winning the match point. If you guys don't know how match point works, it's a new rule in FNCS with the team. If a team gets 500 or more points and 3 wins, the tournament is over. They win FNCS and it's stopped. So if that happens in, let's say, 8 or 9 games, it is over. But 500 points is a lot, and I honestly didn't think anyone was even going to do that. But on Brazil, we had that happen. We had Kitos or Kaitos and Fazin, I have no idea how to pronounce that, I'm sorry, taking away $80,000, getting 530 points, winning 6 games out of 12. They won half the games they played. I just talked about how dominant Bugha and Mero's performance was, and this team had like 200 points on top of that. They just absolutely ran away with it. But because it happened in game 12 where they went over the 500 points, their last game was another win, a 7 elim win. They won their last 4 games in a row to walk away with this one. That's what pushed them over 530, so it didn't really matter because the only point of match point is if you get 500 points before the last game. So there's one less game, and then obviously everyone else's points stop and they don't change at all. It has no real relevancy on the top team because at that many points you're already going to win. It is impossible for another team to have over 500 points with you. But either way, I'm not a huge fan of the match point format anyway. I'm glad the fact they made it so high and so unachievable. It's almost never going to happen because I don't really want it to happen that often. But huge credit to them taking out first place. OCE, we almost had it happen as well. We had Basil and Jace walk away on 499 points, 12 matches, 3 wins. So you know, on OCE again, a lot more elims, but a lot of really consistent placements. Their last few games of the day were 3rd, 11th, but then 3rd, 1st, 3rd. Like, just absolutely insane consistency from Basil and Jace. Huge shout out to them. They had over 100 points on second, which is Vortex and Sons, our new Loot Boy signings that are going to be going to EU for next FNCS. Super excited to see how they do, and I hope a second place is enough to give them confidence going into EU. And then we move over to Asia. We managed to have Runa 1X, and I don't know how to pronounce that. It looks like Japanese characters, and XL2 R2 beating out Malfin and Rim. They're on 415 points though, so huge margin, 75 points over Malfin. But it's awesome to still see a name from World Cup that I recognize on Asia of Malfin still dominating as well. And then last but not least, we had Middle East. We had FKS and King's Bleed walking away on first on 404 points with over 40 points clear of second place. So huge performance from them as well. Not quite as high as Middle East and OCE, but you know, as Brazil and OCE, but Middle East and Asia still went pretty crazy with it. Alright guys, that does it for another video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.